Hi, I'm Lori and I love books. And today I have my recent reads, but first, my current read, Daughter of the Wind by Nora Carmody. This is a book about a princess of the Earth people who is supposed to have Earth magic, but the wind keeps calling her. Um, Her people have horses that they connect to on a psychic level, and they're being systematically wiped out by a invading force that uses eagles to attack. And so half the book you're hearing about Nora and her adventures, and then it flips to Neo and Talon and their adventures. And the horse is Seraphina, I think. Um, Maybe. Oh, Shazara. Shazara. So, um, it's a very action-packed book so far. I'm slowly getting through it. It is a bit violent. It is more violent than something I would have chosen. But maybe enemies to lovers. Maybe I don't really know. Um, but it's so far so good. I did DNF a book recently. This is the Royal Box by Francis Parkinson's Keys. I got this a long time ago at a used bookstore, and I read like the first three chapters, and it is supposed to be a story of a American diplomat going to England and being murdered, and then Scotland Yard is on the case, which sounds good. And it takes place in 1950s, so not my favorite decade to listen to or read a book about. But then it goes like, so first chapter is about that, and then it goes to this mother and daughter who are down on their luck. They started as like aristocrats, and then now they are uh, landlords uh, renting the flats above them, and they're living in the basement. And even though they're down on their luck, the mom is still really conceited, and then the daughter is just a snooty little brat who she likes one guy and her mom likes and wants her to marry another guy. And I found both their characters very unpleasant, and after like two chapters of them just talking and it getting nowhere, and I didn't like it. So DNF'd. If I had not so many books on my TBR and not so many books I still want to read that I don't own already, I might have given it a bigger chance, but it wasn't for me. Uh, the next two books I read were from the library. The first one I've sent back, and that was Dino Poet, which was part of my summer reading challenge, and it was of a dinosaur and a frog, and the dinosaur is exploring poetry, and the frog is helping him because the frog doesn't want to get eaten by the dinosaur. And it's just a very ridiculous, funny take on teaching poetry through dinosaurs. At one point, the dinosaur loses his pen, so they have to go on this long, arduous journey to a tree that grows pens. So very silly book. I gave it 3 stars. Uh, Quick, easy reads. Very like a graphic novel. So lots of cartoon pictures as well. So very fun, light read, and very silly. And then the next one is Birds by Beatrice Zizmakowiak. Sorry, I that one's hard. And this uh, author took quotes from the Audubon book and made poems out of them, and then added some more poems that were just original thoughts on migration. Um, I like the idea more than the execution. It was a pretty easy read, but I don't like if I didn't know it was supposed to be about birds. A lot of the poems I don't think I would have known had anything to do with birds. Um, so I gave it 3 stars. So both good books, but not 5-star reads. The next book I read was The Book of Fairy Spells by Sherilyn Darcy. Um, when I got this book, I was really into magic and spells and things like that. And fairies, I definitely still love fairies. But this, it felt very like the author was just trying to get money. Like, I don't really think any of these spells are true spells. I didn't feel that this author was truly connected to fairies. She's English from England, and a lot of the fairies she's talking about are from Ireland. A lot of the spells I don't think would be very practical to use. And then I kind of felt like this was somebody just trying to take my money. And she succeeded, but I don't recommend it. I gave it 3 stars. It is a very pretty book, but as far as, anything worth trying, no. And it, I would have been much more disappointed with it if it hadn't been fairies, but it just wasn't good enough. And then there were some like little quotes of fairy information, which I really enjoyed that part, but it's written so small in the corner and that it was really hard to read and painful to read when there's like all this extra space that it could have just been put on. It could have been put in a different chapter, all of the information about the facts. And so that really annoyed me and made it really hard to read. The next book is Pests and Other Friends, Discover the True Nature of the Most Maligned Animals by Halsey Berryman. And this was a fun little book that goes over a variety of animals that have a bad reputation because people don't like them. So pigeons are in here, our favorite, the little trash panda. And it basically gives a little synopsis of why humans don't like the animal. And the Berryman was also the artist, so he did all the illustrations as well. It's a very short, to-the-point book. If you're curious about this sort of thing, it's a good introduction. It doesn't go into too much depth of the animals, but it like does talk about pollution, taking land from nature, and not giving space to the animals. So 3.5 stars. It was fun to read. Very colorful book. The next book I read is The Scarlet Pimpernel by Baroness Orczy. And this was a fun, adventure story, kind of during the times of the Three Musketeers. And it's of a wife who is basically thought of as being a genius who marries a fool. And she discovers something about her husband and she has to go and save him, which was quite the different take on a heroine story, like a wife going to help save her husband. It takes place during the Italian Revolution, so the aristocrats, not cats, are being executed because they are seen as the problem. And so it takes place before Marie Antoinette is murdered, or beheaded. But it is a very interesting take. The Scarlet Pimpernel himself is going into Italy and rescuing people. So, a very fun adventure story, a lot of little twists and turns, and it was a fun read. It was a very fun read, 4.5 stars. I definitely will look to see if there's more by that author. It was quite a fun find. And then on to the picture books. This is Lloyd Alexander, The Four Donkeys, illustrated by Lester Abrams. And this is a tale of a shoemaker, so a cobbler, a baker, and a tailor. And they're all going to go to the fair to sell their wares. And they all kind of get a late start for one reason or another. And basically, as they're going, they have to rely on each other in order to get to the fair. So they have to learn a little lesson. It is a fun little book. Not as fun as I'm having with the Chronicles of Pryden series. The next one I absolutely loved, also by Lloyd Alexander, and that's the House Gobelin, illustrated by Diane Good. And this is of a man who wants to improve his luck, so he leaves out little tokens for the fair folk, so that one of the fair folk can come in. He gets this guy who takes his luck from okay to worse, and the cat, who can talk, helps his own roommate. We'll go roommate. It's the house owner, but not the cat's owner. The cat has to help him, and they come up with this plan to get rid of the fairy. And it's very cute, very playful, and they do it by creating the House Gobelin. And so, very fun, 4 stars. Definitely loved the cat in that. Very reminiscent of Puss in Boots. Next one is the Duchess of Whimsy, an absolutely delicious fairy tale by Rendell de Sève and Peter de Sève. And this is the Duchess of Whimsy, who throws all these balls, and at one of the balls, the food isn't ready. So all the guests are trying to create food for the ball. But for one reason or another, the food isn't happening. And so the Duke of, he's not the Duke of Boringness, but Earl of Norm. The Earl of Norm comes up with the dish, and then the Duchess of Whimsy realizes that normal things are good things too. So very adorable, very colorful, very playful, fun story. I gave that 4 stars. The next one I just got, but I was pretty easy to read, and that's Alice in Wonderland, the visual guide based on the Tim Burton film. And I gave this 3.75 stars. It was not my favorite edition of an Alice in Wonderland film. But I did like the first one better than Through the Looking Glass. But here's the Cheshire Kitties page. And it just goes over the different characters as well as some of the different locations in the movie. And so you do get more detail in the book than you would just by watching the movie, because the movie goes so fast. So 3.75 stars. Glad to add that to my collection. And then some more cat books. Bookshop Cats by Daphne du Meowier. This is different bookshops and the cats that reside there, with just a little description, and then each of them kind of pair their cat with a literary Elias. Sorry, words are hard sometimes. There are a couple that are not cats. There's a lizard at one point. And I think one even was a puppy dog. But cute, fun little book. 3.25 stars. Uh, just a quick, easy read that it would be fun to like travel to some of those places and meet the kitties and go shopping at the bookstore. The next one is Proverbs for a Cat Lover's Heart, inspiring stories of fiestiness, friendship, and fun by Jennifer Marshall Bleakley. And this is pairing cats with proverbs. And there are some illustrations. So here's one. Or photographs, I mean. So it tells about the kitty, and then it adds the kitty's stories to the proverbs in order to explain the proverb. So, a bit inspiring. 4 stars. Some sad parts, though. The next book I got from Target maybe a couple months ago, maybe at the most 4 months ago, and that's Pocket Bear by Catherine Applegate. And this is a book about a cat who goes and rescues stuffed animals to take them back to the owner to clean up, and the owner has basically a second chance shop for plush animals. And the mom and the daughter are refugees from a war, and so you're dealing with very tough topics, but in a gentle way that I think would help teach those to children and to just anybody. And then there's one bear who's in charge of the whole company of plushed animals that come alive when the humans aren't around. And then the cat finds a very special bear. And so there's a curator, or like an auctioneer who's trying to take the bear from the family. So bit of an adventure, bit fun, bit educational too. So fun read, 4.5 stars. A bit sad too. And then the next one is Grin by Adam Danielski. And this was a weird book. It like had it broke things down into like these like little numbers, part of each chapter, even though that didn't seem to have anything to do with anything. It, at one point, it like said something of what happened to the cats that were behind a screen, and then the next chapter or part is talking about what happens in front of the screen. And it just, like, I thought when I was reading it that we went back in time, or did, like I didn't understand what happened. And then, so basically, Warrington J. Cat is adopted by the librarian of fictional places. He goes there to help control the rat population. There's another cat, Lord Eldridge, who is getting older, and that's why they need a young kitten to help. The Cheshire Cat accidentally gets in contact with a magic ball, which causes him to get fur that's bright pink and purple, and to be able to disappear. He meets the Mad Hatter. He has to go and try to keep the library from being invaded. He also has to go and try to save Eldridge, the other cat. It's a wild ride, but my biggest problem was that the ending of the book didn't make sense. Like, they created a world, there were rules for that world, and then it didn't work for some reason, and I didn't quite get how the ending was allowed to happen. I'm not sure that's making any sense. I don't want to give it away because it was a fun read, but it was very confusing to read at times. And then it was also, it combined Alice in Wonderland with Wizard of Oz, which I'm not sure why it didn't. And then it does mention Merlin, the wizard from the Arthurian tales, but it was a weird book. It's like the prequel to Alice in Wonderland. Very weird. I don't regret reading it, but I'm also like, it didn't make sense. So, I gave that 4.5 stars because even though it didn't make sense, I did enjoy reading it. And the last one I read is Alice in Wonderland book, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. This is a pretty big book. It's got a cloth cover. The illustrations are the original John Tenniel ones, but with color. And it does both books. And it was a book I've read many times before, but reading this edition was really fun. It's a very nice size book, and I love having it part of my collection, and I gave it 5 stars. So those are all the books I've read recently. Let me know in the comments below what books you've read. Like and subscribe, and until next time, have a lovely time reading. Bye!